I could send you $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, and you could liquidate that wherever you are in the world.
Gerald Cotten's life and tragic passing are shrouded in mystery. He convinced tons of investors to fork over their money so he could invest it in crypto. Then, as their accounts accumulated to hundreds of millions of dollars, Gerald passed unexpectedly, taking the passwords to the account to his grave. All that money vanished into the crypto ether, and only once investigations occurred did people start to think that it may have been a scam all along. Some also believe that Gerald isn't even dead at all, but rather hiding away with the hundreds of millions of dollars he solely controlled. But due to the strict security of crypto, we may never know. Today we're covering the crypto king Gerald Cotten. Tomorrow though, you decide. Let us know in the comments down below who you think we should cover on the next episode of Where Are They Now. If you could like this video, it would be a big help for our little channel. Gerald Cotten was from Belleville, Ontario, and attended York University for business. He learned about Bitcoin while it was in its infancy in Toronto, and so he decided to travel to Vancouver, where he founded his Bitcoin investment company Quadriga Fintech Solutions in 2013. They started out small, only doing local trades. Then they installed the second Bitcoin ATM in Vancouver and started to expand to online investments. In 2015, the company ran into some financial trouble and the entire board of directors resigned, leaving Gerald the sole director and controller of the company. Other than a few contract workers, the company had no employees, offices, or bank accounts. Then in 2017, the Bitcoin craze happened and the value of cryptocurrency jumped from $1,000 to $20,000 almost overnight. The company experienced an insane jump in investors who exchanged about $1.2 billion worth of Bitcoin. That being said, Quadriga suffered from quite a few hiccups, likely from such a high volume of users and such little support staff. The company lost $14 million worth of Ethereum due to a computer error in 2017, and as Bitcoin started to crash again in 2018, customers were having difficulty retrieving their money to pull out of the investment. And that's when the real story starts. The amount of money that Gerald had begun to obtain through his business as Bitcoin's value tripled in just 5 months was astonishing. Gerald would start to amass homes in Nova Scotia, British Columbia, Calgary, and he owned 14 rental properties in Nova Scotia alone. He had a Lexus, a Tesla, a private plane that he never flew, a yacht, and they were planning to open an orphanage in India. Gerald was the sole owner of Quadriga because everyone left, and it became Canada's dominant Bitcoin exchange. He ran the entire business from his MacBook Pro. Another thing to note about Gerald that will become relevant later is that he had Crohn's disease. It's a bowel disease that can cause severe pain, fatigue, weight loss, malnutrition, etc. when the body ingests certain foods. The foods, however, are whole grains, beans, nuts, seeds, dairy, pretty much everything with high fiber or fat content, which can cause an inflammation in the bowels. Basically, Crohn's is super debilitating, and so Gerald basically solely subsisted on hummus according to those around him. Then, after marrying his wife in 2018, Gerald and her went to India for their honeymoon. He would pass suddenly while there. When national news articles began to appear a month after his death, they emphasized another detail. Gerald was the only person with the passwords to the accounts holding Quadriga's funds, both crypto and cash, worth approximately $250 million, and nobody knew how to find the money. The Nova Scotia Supreme Court declared the company bankrupt, and another company was called to find the lost funds that belonged to Quadriga's investors. There were also investigations done by the RCMP, the FBI, and 2 other law enforcement agencies, but by far the most thorough investigations were done by anonymous accounts on none other than Reddit. We'll get into just what they found in a second. Back to right after Gerald passed, the initial portrait of him was that he was a good guy. He had a reputation as a true believer in the future of cryptocurrency. When people started to freak out about all their money being lost, another crypto company CEO stated he, quote, was not an evil dude. He was careful and pragmatic. He was in it for the long haul. After he died, 76,000 people were out of their investments. While there were several federal law enforcement agencies on the case who had top-notch resources, they would not be the ones to do the true sleuthing. In fact, anonymous users on Reddit, likely the very people who trusted Gerald in the first place, wanted revenge for their savings being taken from them. Traditional law enforcement barely even understood cryptocurrency, let alone knew how to solve a case that was basically entirely online with an extremely small chance of anyone ever recovering the funds. In the public narrative that emerged, derived largely from the meticulously detailed investigation by Canada's Globe and Mail, Cotten fell sick 9 days into his Indian honeymoon. The following afternoon, his condition deteriorated and blood tests indicated septic shock. Before doctors could stabilize him, his heart stopped, he was revived, and his heart stopped again. Barely more than 24 hours after the onset of a stomachache, he was pronounced dead. Although his official cause of death was Crohn's disease, no autopsy was requested, and so no one is 100% sure. Apparently, the body had been embalmed in India and then sent back to Canada to be buried. A whole month after the funeral was when Gerald's death was publicly announced. During that time, Quadriga continued to accept new funds, but returned none. The fundamental theme of Bitcoin is to trust no one. You can access every transaction publicly through a blockchain. So why then did Gerald not have a plan B or any sort of plan set up for if he did die? He had a will, of which millions would be appointed to Gerald's wife and 100,000 to his chihuahuas, but there was no mention of business dealings. It was extremely suspicious. That company was supposedly Gerald's entire life. A close business partner of Gerald's also stated, quote, "Gerald was a very careful person who well understood the need to back up one's private keys. There's no way a man like Gerry, with all his knowledge and his mindset, would leave it to chance." He even said himself in a 2014 interview that if something were to happen, the passwords would be automatically transferred to his girlfriend, now wife, but that never happened. Then people started coming to the conclusion that Gerald may not be dead after all, that he may have taken the money and ran. Non-incriminating but definitely suspicious texts were found on his phone where he bragged about his wealth and stated that he wanted an early retirement. People started to suspect that Gerald wasn't who he said he was after all. It was found that Gerald also participated in some light frauding as a teenager, scamming people out of pocket change in online forums. They also found that one of the new directors on the board of Quadriga was a scammer who had taken money from investors and ran with it, very similar to the case we have now. We now know that Cotten began no later than 2015 to steal his clients' funds. He also created dozens of false trading accounts to stimulate trading volume on the platform, a fact he even disclosed in the 2015 filings. He neglected to disclose, however, that he filed those fake accounts with invented funds, traded counterfeit Bitcoin for real Bitcoin and Canadian and American dollars. By the time of his death, Cotten's sham trading accounts had conducted approximately 300,000 trades. Most years, Cotten neglected to file a personal tax return. When he did file, he claimed no income from Quadriga. And then, Redditors discovered that within a month after Cotten's reported death, blockchain investors proved that nearly all of the inaccessible wallets were empty. Cotten, it turned out, had transferred the funds into personal accounts on competitor exchanges. At least some of those accounts had also been emptied. Cotten had mentioned having a safe bolted to the rafters in the attic of his home in which he had stored the passwords to his various cryptocurrency accounts. After learning of his death, one of his contractors immediately went to the house and searched for it. He found the place in the attic where 4 holes had been drilled through the rafters, but the safe was gone. The RCMP and the FBI have refused to comment, but some of their interview subjects have gotten the impression that Cotten might not be dead. One person who was subject to interrogation stated, quote, "They asked me about 20 times if he was alive. They always end their conversation with that question." The only way to verify that the body Robertson, his wife, brought home from India was actually Cotten is to exhume it. The RCMP, which has jurisdiction over the case, has thus far not done so. Also, it is notoriously difficult to legally exhume a body, so I doubt they'd really be able to for a long time if they tried. Cotten built his career on the insight that most people are willing to believe most of what they are told most of the time. Gerry would count on the world believing he was reckless, greedy, and dead. He would count on most people to forget all about him. Most people, a year after his death, already have. While there is no proof that Gerry is alive, there is also no proof that he is dead. There were so many suspicious moments leading to this ending, and it's an extremely unsatisfying one. He could very well have a new name, new face, and be living in a new country off of the millions of dollars of investment money. Or he could be 6 feet under, and we may never know the real answer. So what do you think about Gerald Cotten? Do you think he's still alive? Let us know in the comments down below. While you're down there, please subscribe to this channel so we can keep you updated on when we post next. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Where Are They Now? I've been your host, Sierra. See you next time.